Hello and welcome to this experiment, this, how shall I call it, off the cuff idea for a video. I just suddenly decided to do this and hopefully it works. If it did, then you're obviously watching this right now. This is going to be a virtual tour through my Letterboxd account. So here we have the Letterboxd site. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's simply a website where you can log and review films that you've seen. And someone who, like myself, is very interested in stats and, keeping a note of every film I've watched, which I've been doing since the beginning of 2012. So I still need to update my profile, actually, because I think my Letterboxd account started in the beginning of 2014. So I have about 4.5 years worth of film watching logged on this account. But it's a great site not only to log what you view, but also to review films, to see what other people think of films, to see ratings, thoughts, and particularly feelings from people who aren't necessarily film critics, which is where I kind of really gravitate towards reading about films on Letterboxd and getting more of a general, regular Joe perspective on films. So this is my homepage. Shows me what some of the people I follow have watched recently and have reviewed. So there's Lee McCoy there talking about You're Next and so on. And this little icon here tells you that there's been a review. You don't have to review a film. You don't have to write anything about it, but we'll get to that. So popular with friends right now. So obviously a lot of the Halloween films at the moment. It's October. Popular reviews. Again, more horror films, but also A Star is Born is quite popular at the minute. New lists. Popular lists. I really like these, actually, the showdowns. Let's have a look at these a second. These are where you can kind of make your own list, and it fits in with the theme. And I think I've done one of them, at least one of them. Let me see if I frame up. I think yes, best cinematography. Let's see if mine's on there. In terms of like it'll show me if that I've done it. I'm not sure. No. So this is like the, what films you would call like the best cinematographically, which isn't even a word, but the best cinematography that you can think of in film. So you got all these people's thoughts on which films look the best, and it's really fun to just randomly click on them. And I'm not sure if, here we go, just no particular order. Sometimes people won't leave comments, but just their ratings and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at my profile. I'll leave that flubber and any subsequent flubbers in for free. So here we have my profile. Now I have a pro account, which means I've paid like, I don't know, $15 or something for the year. I'm happy to support the website because I love it, but also to get kind of additional stats on my account, which is always fun. So, I should change this actually. I don't live there anymore, unfortunately. I wish I still did, but so here we have, I've logged 1,657 films in the past 4.5 years. 149 I've seen this year. I've made 41 lists. I follow 46 people, and I have 330 followers. I had honestly never really looked at that. So we have my activity. Well, this is my profile where I kind of list some of my favorite films at the top here. I would call these my 4 favorite films of all time. Recent activity, the films that I've watched most recently. So there's the first 3 Harry Potter films there, and Black Sunday, which I reviewed on my channel quite recently. My recent reviews, when I've talked about a film, popular reviews. I guess my Last Jedi review is the most popular currently. And tags that I've put in, and the people that I follow. And here's some of my lists. And my ratings, you can see my ratings curve. Now this is something that Brian Lomax said, never trust anyone whose ratings curve goes all the way up like this. But what can I say, I love movies, and for the most part I watch films that I end up really loving, so it seems the 4.5 star out of 5 rating is my most common rating for films. So I've given 348 films. That I've rated 235 films as a 5-star rating. Now I've talked about my 5-star rating system. For me, it's just films that I completely love. I'm not talking about masterpieces. I think it's the best film ever. I know some people are quite precious about films that they give a 5 out of 5 or not. Here we have the diary, which tells me the days in which I watched the recent films. So you can see like Heathers on the 18th of September, The Predator, etc., etc. So activity. And I don't usually go to most of these tabs, but okay, so here's all like the people I follow, reviews they've done, what they've liked, As you can see, Justin Peterson very active on Letterboxd, which is great to see. But I don't really go on here because it just shows you every minute detail of what the people you're following are doing, and I'm not that interested. I prefer to just see like the reviews or the ratings. Films. We have all the films I've watched, and you can order this by genre. You can go to let's try this. I've never really done this before actually. Documentary. Let's see all the documentaries I've watched. 122. That can't be right. Holy shit! I've watched a lot of documentaries. Not as many. Okay. So there's like a lot like the Alien documentaries, like film making ofs. I suppose that kind of bumps it up a bit. I should show you this actually. There Goes the Neighborhood, the making of the Burbs. I made this page. I made this poster. I forgot about this. This is the documentary that was produced for the Arrow Video Blu-ray release of the Burbs back in 2014, I guess, by the year. So I actually went onto the movie database and created this page so that it could be accessed on Letterboxd, purely so I could kind of log it as a film I'd seen. And now I can see that 81 people have watched it, which is really cool. And it's in 14 lists. That's awesome. I've never really come back to this page before. But yes, I made this poster. That's really cool. Awesome. And so there we go. So yeah, we've got like documentaries there. And so you can look at like what's service. Oh, I'd never done this before either. The Amazon, iTunes, but I'm not too film struck. That would be interesting actually, if I looked at that. Okay. Oh wow. So this actually goes into like a subsection of documentaries that are on Filmstruck and Criterion. So if I put that back to all, 87 films I've watched that are available on Filmstruck. One of which I did recently watch on Filmstruck, which is Still Walking. Wait a minute. The Salesman. I have not seen that. That's interesting. Why does it say that I've seen that? Let's investigate here. Let's do some detective work. What? I've never seen this. That's okay. Let's unmark that as what. Maybe I want to add it to a watch list and I clicked watch by accident. Very intriguing. Curiouser and curiouser. So we can also sort by release date. So we can look at all the silent films I've watched. Let's see. Release dates. Earliest for. You can go like my highest rating, the average rating from other people, the film length, the film popularity, or alphabetical. So we'll go with earliest first by release date. And here we have a lot of the silent films that I've watched. Now many of these are like, a few minutes long, if even that. So a lot of the Lumiere films. I watched a 90-minute presentation of about 150 Lumiere shorts, and I jokingly tried to add every single one of them, but I ended up giving up because it was just too complicated. But as you can see, there's a lot of silent films that I've watched from the very early days. It's really cool to see this actually. So now we get into like the early 20s here with Nosferatu and Buster Keaton, A Woman of Paris, The Epic of Everest. Let's see how many more I've watched from the 20s. Man, that really gives you a scope. And then, of course, onto the 30s, which is a tragically underviewed decade for me. Anyway, so that's the film section. Then we have the diary section, which I go to quite often, which gives me like a month-by-month breakdown, so I can go all the way back to the beginning, I assume. Let's go to the 31st page here and see when I started my account, which would have been... Oh, okay, so this is these are like January 2009. That's when I know that I watched this film. So I guess I've added, and these films are from the 24-hour movie marathon in 2012 in April. So I've added some from earlier than my account starting. And okay, actually, yeah, no, I've actually gone back and I've started adding things from my personal list, because before I used to just keep a Word document telling me about all the the films that I'd watched, and I put the date next to it basically. But I'm fairly certain that I started actually logging films in real time in January 2014. Yes, I think it was Rush and All Is Lost. As you can see, I've got a review next to it. So this was something I did in 2014 as well. If you see, 1st of January 2014, from then onwards, I have reviews for every single film I watched for the entire year. Now, by review, I mean it could just be a sentence or a couple of paragraphs. In some cases, a fairly lengthy review. but I actually stuck to that for a full year and wrote down stuff for every single film I watched. So that was fun, but it was also kind of grueling. I remember catching up on weekends all the time. This is an incredible film, Cutie and the Boxer. Highly recommend it. Fantastic documentary about Ushio Shinohara. A very intriguing character. I love this film so much. I've seen it twice, as you can see, logged twice. So that's that. The film diary. I like that. It's cool to look back on stuff like that. And I can look back on like these film diaries and think, oh yeah, like Big. That's when I watched it. Ghostbusters and Big. I watched those two films because I was about to go to New York. You know, so these memories come back. The King of Kong and the Grand Budapest Hotel I watched in New York with Robbie Webster. And then The Departed, I remember watching it with Ryan Chataway in Florida. The Winter Soldier we went to see in New York when it first came out. And then, yeah, so my memories come back by some of these films by kind of the, what's the word? The kind of, the flow of the kinds of movies I'm watching. Like there's Metropolis there and there's Voyager. So, you know, these things come back. Anyway, I'm really rambling at this point. Watchlist. I don't use this anywhere near as much as I should. A lot of these are very random picks. So these are just all kind of, look, Battlefield Earth. They're just things that I see that I think I'd like to watch that at some point for whatever reason. And so lots of random things here. Lots of foreign titles, kind of films I never got to from like the past couple of years. So yeah, I don't really look at this all that often, to be honest. We'll leave list until last. Look at the likes. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so I should mention this. When you log a film, actually let's try logging a film now. Let's just say Star Wars, right? If we select that, just bring it up. So you can click that you like it or you don't like it. And to be honest, for most films I click like. I don't see it as like that I love the film, but it's, you know, if I like the film, I give it a little tick next to it, basically. So this just shows me, yeah. In fact, no, what are these? I guess these are films that other people have reviewed that I like, I suppose. I'm not even too sure. Or maybe reviews that I've liked. That's what it is. Yes, and then we have lists that I've probably liked as well. So we have Daisuke Beppu's My Favorite Films in the Criterion Collection. Tags. I'm not too sure about this one. Okay, these are all the tags I've put in my reviews, which I kind of have stopped doing, so that's fairly useless to me. Network. I'm not too sure. Okay, so there's all the people I'm following and so on and so forth, and all the likes that they've given out, the films that they've watched. Where's that guy who I follow? See if I can find him on here. He has a crazy account. Punk. There you go, Punk. Look at this guy. You got to see it. 23,336 films. He's seen 678 this year already. Just ridiculous. Yeah, I think he probably has the most watched films on any one of Letterboxd. Anyway, we'll go back. And finally, stats, which I believe is a pro exclusive, or at least the more in-depth stats. So this is my life in film, or my life over the past 4.5 years in film. 2,781 hours, 1,010 directors from 57 countries. So you get to see kind of, what's this? Okay, these are the most films I've watched from a certain year, which is interesting. So we can go back to like 1895, I've seen 12 films from, 1916, 1927, I've seen 9 films. So it looks like 2017 is the year I've seen the most. 100 films, really? Huh. It doesn't feel like that. I felt like I'd only got to like 80 films last year. Anyway, so highest rated decades in 1950s. You got like The Music Room, Pather Panchali, Rashomon, Narayama, The Ballad of Narayama, I should say, 400 Blows, Sunset Boulevard, The Seventh Seal, Paths of Glory, Touch of Evil, On the Waterfront, Rear Window, Limelight, Ben-Hur, Sancho the Bailiff, The Human Condition, Tokyo Story, Ugetsu, Seven Samurai, and All About Eve. Yeah, the 50s was a pretty damn good decade. Then, of course, we have the 1980s. I can understand why that list is quite high on my ratings. And then the 1940s, which I wouldn't have expected, I guess. Very interesting. These are my current rankings for 2018 movies. So that's cool to see. Get a nice little cover image there with the pro account. and the genre. I mean, look, this is so specific. I love it. Obviously, you can see that the USA is my my most dominant country of origin when it comes to films that I've watched. UK following closely behind. Well, not closely. What am I talking about? Following like 1,000 movies behind, but comparatively to the rest of the list. Japan is fairly high up there. Norway, 16 films from Norway. Really, jeez. I'm not gonna just click on that. I'm intrigued. See, this is, I don't really go on here that often. Look at it. Look at this. I'm such a mug. Look at this. My own marathons are there because they are produced in Norway. That's quite sad, isn't it? Okay, the actual films. What? The Double Life of Veronique is classed as Norway? That's very strange. Gypsy Anne, yeah. Troll Hunter, yeah. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. What are you talking about? This is strange. Headhunters, yes. Blind, yes. The Wave, yes. Thelma. I haven't seen that one. Man, this is kind of annoying me that this has happened. It must be the Watchlist, and I've messed up a few times. And the Snowman I can understand, unfortunately. Alright, so back again, we have it shows me how many films I've seen from certain lists on Letterboxd, like the popular ones, like the IMDb Top 250, Edgar Wright's 1,000 favorites list, the 1,001 movies you must see before you die list. As you can see, 350, which is a lot more than the videos I've made so far. My most watched films of all time, or at least of the past few years. The Last Jedi, 12 times. The Force Awakens, then Empire, then Star Wars, then Return of the Jedi, Blade Runner, Metropolis, Aliens, It, Covenant, Ghost Stories, and Game Night. There's loads of films I've seen 3 times over the past few years, but very interesting to see these things. The stars that I've seen the most: Buster Keaton, Shintaro Katsu, Samuel L. Jackson, not surprisingly, Michael Keaton, my favorite actor, directors, crew, even down to little things like Bill Corso, 16 movies with makeup, and then a world map to end it off with. And also what you can do, which is pretty cool, is you can actually look at the specific years, which is nice. So 2017, we can go back and look at obviously my top list and year in review, diary entries, reviews. So the diary entries are just things I've logged. So I watched 396 films. I think a lot of those are the early silent films. 557.3 hours, 60 comments, likes, lists, etc. And those are my movies ranked, the top 20. Which is, I like the layout here. It's really cool. And you can go by week as well. A weekly average. So it looks like Thursday was the day I watched films the most over 2017. The last film I watched, the first film I watched, the most. I love it. These are the films I watched in the marathon last year that I ranked as in terms of films that I enjoyed the most. So I like to have those lists shown. Asian cinema season, my top 20 from last year's Asian cinema season. Obviously Tokyo Story taking the top spot there. And again, 2017 releases or older. So that's intriguing because, you really get to see there just how much I stick to films that aren't released in the year that I'm watching them in. And the same can be said for watches and rewatches. My rewatches are very small compared to the first watches, which is kind of how I like to do it, I suppose. Shintaro Katsu again from the Zatoichi movies, directors, etc. And yes, Vada. So that was the year I first got into Vada's movies, and the rest follows. The similar kind of. I guess the highest rated film that I've seen that I saw in 2017, which I kind of class as Twin Peaks: The Return. Lowest being Death Note, and then all the films I watched in order. See all 396 highly rated films you missed. So that gives you a clue for things from that year that I haven't seen yet. This is one I really want to see. Sleep Has Her House, but it's unavailable to watch at the minute. And we can go back and take a look at this year as far as where I'm at currently, which is always fun to see. Not many reviews, 323 hours. That's quite a long time. I think I haven't been on this page already before. As you can see, I've done a few more rewatches this year so far. And Naoko Ogigami is my #1 director of the year as far as films I've seen. Hirokazu Koreeda is working his way up there along with Agnes Varda and a lot of, Japanese directors there, dominating the kind of top 10. Brad Bird, Chris Columbus, Steven Spielberg, Brian De Palma. And so I love Letterboxd, and I love going through it, and I suppose we can end this, not very quickly, but by looking at my lists. And everything I just showed you could be accessed from this drop-down thing here. So you'll see some of my private lists in here. So, Asian Cinema Season 2. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We have my Harry Potter films ranked. I recently changed this as I'm working my way back through the series. I put Chamber of Secrets at #2, actually. Thank you very much. I love ranking stuff. So, and I've now set up a list for the Epic Film Challenge. These are all the films that I've watched and reviewed in the order that I reviewed them for the Epic Film Challenge too. So it's cool to look through these and remember my viewing chronology, I should say, of all those films. See a couple of comments on there, that's pretty cool. And yeah, I have some private lists. I'm trying to rank all the 1001 movies that I've seen so far and reviewed. It's very difficult. I have like the top 10 pretty much set, but the rest is all kind of jumbled up and not really ordered or organized yet. My 2018 movies ranked, 2016 movies ranked, the Alien franchise, the Predator movies, which I recently did after seeing The Predator. I'd put it at #3, I guess. Pretty good, maybe a little bit better than Alien vs. Predator. And what else do we have? Naoko Ogigami, 2017 movies. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mission Impossible. There's quite a few I've done. And for every 24-hour movie marathon, I have ranked all the films. I think I got this idea from Dennis, actually. So just ranking, in order of the ones that I enjoyed the most, the films from each marathon over the years. And that one isn't numbered. It should be numbered. Asian Cinema Season 2017. There's 58 films there. 2015, Agnes Varda. C, this is my work in progress of my top 100 films of all time, my favorites. And again, this is like the top 10 is pretty much set, and then just the rest are in vague order. Star Wars movies ranked. Here we go, the Letterboxd Showdown Frame Up Cinematography Top 10. So I took part in this, and these other films I would say are the most beautiful as far as cinematography goes. Yep. Moving on very swiftly. David Lynch filmography. It's interesting. I find myself such a fan of David Lynch, and yet I've only seen a few of his films. I mean, Eraserhead and Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. But then you have, The Return. Do you call it a film? Do you not? I don't know. Wait, let's just see if this is supposed to be ranked. So, yes, okay. There we go. That should look better now if we go back to that. Yes, that's the way I would like it to look. So let's go back to lists. 2004 movies ranked. Now this is something that I did where I decided to go to Wikipedia and look at all the films released in like a year that I was alive, and like go through the dates and find films I'd seen. I found films I'd forgotten I'd even watched. So 2004, like I went to the cinema quite a bit, like to see like Wimbledon, Troy, Van Helsing, Sideways, I, Robot, Closer, Collateral, Along King Polly, and I'd forgotten some of these films and then remembered them again, kind of. So, yeah, Thunderbirds, so forgettable. And then you got Team America, which I didn't enjoy that much. So, and there's some films I obviously didn't see in 2004, but it helps to kind of jog my memory just to look through what was released in a given year. So I kind of like to do these. It would be nice to have a list for every year, but that's just going to take so long, But I like doing lists. What can I say? That should be pretty evident. Alright, so I just cut out a bit because it showed all the films I watched in this year's 24-hour movie marathon. So, yeah. Akira Kurosawa filmography ranked. 1955 movies. I need to get better at whenever I watch a film, adding them to my specific year rankings, So, I've got 1992 there, for example. So, yeah, it's fun to kind of go through those different years, different periods, different eras, different kinds of films, and ranking them on that year. 1973, 1975, Studio Ghibli filmography, anime films, Child's Play, more marathons. 2007 only has one film in it so far. There's many I could add to that, but I've just kind of, I don't have the time to fully, make this list business my day job or anything. And here we have my 24-hour movie marathon series, which I very, very vainly have added to Letterboxd. So you can click on that and you can... look, it's got 2 ratings. That's interesting. Who rated this 5 stars? I want to see this. Will it show me? Okay, Michael Kirwan rated it as 5 stars. And Aaron Jones rated it 2.5. A very fair rating, I would say. So you can look at those and rank them and stuff if you so wish. I know they're not movies, but they are kind of documentaries in some way, shape, or form. This one has a few reviews, or at least one review from Ryan Chataway, and a few ratings, more than the other ones, I suppose. And I think the 6th one had a review as well, which is nice to see. Ah, yes, we have one from Huss here. How can I describe it? Imagine Total Recall meets Sex and the City too. Interesting. And this very kind review from Graham over at Man v Film. So it's fun for me to have these up there. I like it. I enjoy it. Sue me. At least I haven't done a ranked one to kind of rank which ones I think are the best. I haven't gone that far. Now, this was my top 250 favorite films of all time that I did 4 years ago, and this list would look very different now. Hayao Miyazaki's filmography rank, Disney films, Nolan films, Tarantino, X-Men, Buster Keaton silent films, Makoto Shinkai, Star Wars documentaries and spin-offs. Another kind of top 20. So I've taken a few stabs at kind of my top films of all time, things like that. But anyway, so there we go. That is my Letterboxd virtual tour, I suppose. Let's kind of close out with just a random look at one of the stats pages. And hopefully you've enjoyed this look at my Letterboxd account. You see my rankings for 2015 films there. And featured lists. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you have a Letterboxd, feel free to add me. I think that the list is... the link is down below. This is interesting. The most obscure film I watched in 2015. This is Thank You, Mr. Lasseter, a documentary about John Lasseter going to... Hayao Miyazaki going to visit John Lasseter. And I think I got a comment on this today saying, where were you able to watch this? I think I watched it on Vimeo somewhere. So, yeah. I like finding just random things and kind of logging them and talking about them, so for me, I don't need it to be a film to log it, a documentary is always interesting to talk about in any way, shape, or form. And this is interesting. You can see like the next film I watched after that was Into the Woods and then Hercules, so quite an interesting sandwiching of movies there. Anyway, that is it. Thank you for watching. I'll leave you there. These are all different people on Letterboxd, people I follow, people who I could follow. I will leave it there. Thanks for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause